everyone, I'm Lux, and this is True Crime with Lux. So today I'm going to be covering the tragic case of Nikki Whitehead, a mother whose worst nightmare came true. Born Jarmeka Yvonne Whitehead, who went by Nikki, was born on April 18th of 1975. Her mother, Linda, was 21 and in prison for possession of substances and robbery when she gave birth to Nikki. Her grandmother, Della, raised her in Decatur, Georgia. She said that Nikki was rambunctious and they didn't always see eye to eye, but with Linda in prison, she didn't have any choice but to raise Nikki. In high school, Nikki started hanging out with a bad crowd and soon started partying and experimenting with drugs. When she was 17, she found out that she was pregnant. It was not planned and she was extremely overwhelmed, even more so when she learned she was having twins. She had her two daughters on November 27th of 1993. She named them Tasmaya and Jasmaya, but the twins would go by Tas and Jas. Their father left right after they were born, which left Nikki alone to raise the girls. The girls were said to be very happy, and the three of them lived with Della, and it gave the girls structure because Nikki wasn't quite ready to be a full-time mom. She still wanted to live her life and not have all the responsibilities, so she became more like a sister to the girls, and Della was their mother figure. Nikki continued her partying, but she loved her girls and always made sure that she had a job so she could financially support them while Della cared for them, which wasn't always easy since Della was now 60 years old and taking care of twins. Nikki wanted a better future for her family, and she soon became a hairstylist and she built up her client list. This brought in a good amount of money for the family so they could live comfortably. Tas and Jas were smart. They played tennis, they were in dance class, Girl Scouts, they were always busy with their activities. The girls were described as sweet and polite and just all around great kids. Nikki soon met a new man named Robert Head at a shopping mall when Robert had stopped her to tell her how beautiful she was. They talked for a while and Nikki ended up agreeing to go on a date with him. He took her dancing and said it was an amazing time. Robert was 30 years older than Nikki, but the two got along great, and from that first date, they were in a relationship. Robert was a truck driver, so he wasn't home very often, but he had a house in Conyers, which was 30 miles from where Nikki lived. As their relationship became more serious and they realized they were in love, Robert talked to Nikki about having an open relationship so she wouldn't get lonely when he was gone for work. His only rule was that she didn't bring people to his house, and when he wasn't working, they would be together. Nikki did start spending more time at his house, which meant that Tas and Jas, now 7, didn't see her very often. After being together for about 6 years, Robert asked Nikki and the girls to move in with him. They were now engaged, and he wanted them to start their life as a family. Jas and Tas were now 13, and where they really liked Robert, they weren't excited about moving. They had been raised by Della, and they didn't want to leave her. They had a lot of freedom with her. Since she was a bit on the older side, the girls were able to get away with more. Della wasn't able to keep up with what the girls were doing, and she just trusted them and believed that they were doing the right things. She hadn't even noticed when they started doing bad in school and their grades began dropping. The girls were also dating older boys and smoking marijuana. With all of that, Nikki saw the girls going down a bad path, and even though they didn't want to, she made them move in with her to live with Robert. This made the girls angry, and they began resenting their mom for taking them away from Della. They called her a hypocrite, since they knew she did the same things when she was their age. They began arguing all of the time, and the girls continued doing whatever they wanted. One night, when Nikki noticed that Jas had snuck out, she called the police to look for her. They found her at her boyfriend's house. Learning this, Nikki was worried that Jas, who was only 13, might become pregnant. She took away her phone, which just made the fighting between them escalate. Nikki began feeling scared, worried that with it just being her at home with them, since Robert was gone a lot for work, the girls may become more violent. And unfortunately, she was right. June of 2008, police got a call to the house. When they arrived, Nikki told them that the girls had attacked her. Police then went to speak to Jas and Tas and said they seemed like just innocent little girls and didn't see why Nikki was saying she was scared of them. As the police continued to talk to the girls, they started to feel strange with how calm they both seemed and were trying to act really sweet. The girls told police that it was actually Nikki who was hurting them. Even with all of this, the officer just left without even really doing anything, but did feel like something wasn't right. So she sat outside watching the house for a little bit, and that's when she got a call to go back to the house. She went back in, and Nikki said the girls attacked her, scratched her, and dragged her across the floor. The girls claimed it was in self-defense. However, there were no marks on either girl. Only Nikki had marks from the attack. Nikki was crying, and the officer could see all of the scratch marks. Meanwhile, the girls were just standing there, calm. Jas and Tas were arrested for the attack. During their hearing, the judge said the girls would be returned to Della. So the girls got exactly what they wanted, which made them realize that if they acted out with Nikki, they would be able to go back to live with Della. Nikki still wanted her relationship with the girls to work. She wanted to go to therapy together to try to resolve their issues. Anything to make things better between them. But at the moment, the girls would be back with Della. The judge said that Nikki and the girls would need to attend counseling. This didn't help though, because the girls would act sweet and innocent while there. Now back with Della, the girls went back to doing whatever they wanted and skipping school. When Nikki would come visit them and see what they were up to, she would parent them. However, this didn't go over well because Della would step in and tell them they didn't have to listen to their mom. 2 years later, while living with Della still, the girls were sent back to juvenile court for truancy due to missing so much school. On January 5th of 2010, the judge decided that Della, due to her age, was unable to keep up with the girls to properly care for them, and gave Nikki back custody of her now 16-year-old twins. This infuriated them, and they threw a fit right there in the courtroom. People even overheard Jas tell Nikki that she'd kill her if she had to live with her again. But Nikki didn't care what the girls said because she wanted them to be a family and work on their relationship. The judge said they'd start with 2 weeks as a trial period, and after that, they would see how it was going. Nikki took them home, even though she was still scared of what the girls were capable of. She threw them a welcome home party, but Jas and Tas were not interested and just went to their room. Nikki started locking herself in her room at night out of fear that the girls would try to attack her while she slept. Now, the girls still continued to do what they wanted, and one night went out at a party until 2 a.m., even though they had school the next day, so Nikki woke them up in the morning to tell them, "You gotta get ready." After being out all night, they were tired, and they didn't want to go to school. Nikki said she didn't care if they were hungover, tired, from partying, they had to go to school. The girls got angry and followed Nikki to the kitchen. Now, here's where the girls claim that when they walked in, Nikki was holding a pot like she was going to hit them. They all started yelling. Then they said they tried to get the pot away from Nikki. Believing they were going to hit her, they said Nikki then grabbed a knife. Pointing the knife at them, they all made their way to the living room, where Jas hit her over the head with a vase. In reaction to this, Nikki jumped on Jas and bit her. Jas began punching Nikki to try and get her off. During all of this, Tas picked up the knife that Nikki dropped and began stabbing her. Jas then took a medal off the wall and started strangling Nikki. She fought back and was able to get Jas off of her. Jas then grabbed the knife and stabbed Nikki as well. When she got a chance, Nikki ran from the house to try and find help. By the time a neighbor came out to see what was going on, Nikki wasn't outside anymore. The girls claim that Nikki came back on her own and sat down on the couch, but this doesn't seem to be the truth, especially when drag marks were found at the scene. It turns out that Jas and Tas had tried to pick Nikki up and carry her, but they weren't strong enough, which is where the drag marks had come from when they were trying to take her to the bathroom where they put her in the tub. Nikki was still aware of what was happening, but was too weak to move or try and stop them. They then filled the tub with water while Nikki tried to talk to them, to beg them not to do this. Nikki then died from drowning. The girls then tried to figure out what to do next. They decided they would get ready and go to school, hoping that police would assume they had been there when Nikki was killed, even though at this point they had missed half the day. They tried to clean up before they left and took Nikki's phone and purse along with the murder weapon in plastic bags. They stopped by a gas station hoping to find a ride to school. When they arrived, they went straight to the counselor's office. Getting their late passes, they then went to class like nothing happened. They assumed that the police would be at the house before they got back. But when they got home, everything was the same as when they had left. and they finally realized what they had done and said they were horrified by their actions. They started to clean more when they saw a police car, and Jas ran outside crying, saying there's blood and my mom and the bath. The officer followed her to the house, and when they opened the door, he could smell the blood. He later stated that he had never seen a crime scene so bloody. He called for backup as he went through the house and found Nikki in the tub. The girls were crying the whole time, and he said they were really upset. They were soon taken to a hospital to be looked at before they could be taken to the police station. People noticed that during this, Tas began rocking and even biting herself. When asked why she was doing it, she said it was a habit for self-soothing when she was nervous. Now at the police station, in an interrogation room, the girls were crying and holding on to each other. Detectives tried to calm them down before talking to them. The girls let them know that Robert was out of town, so they didn't think he could be involved. They then said that when Robert was away for work, their mom would see other men, and one of these men, who they named as Joe, would argue with Nikki. It's the day before they were fighting over the phone. Detectives then went to start looking for suspects, but asked if the girls needed anything before they left. And the girls asked if they could watch an episode of CSI. Okay. This kind of set some red flags to detectives who thought it was weird that they'd want to watch TV after just losing their mom and being the ones to discover her. Back at the house, robbery was soon ruled out. They believed that whoever had done this either lived there or was let into the house. They could tell that someone tried to clean up with bleach, but soon gave up trying. They then went to talk to neighbors, and the next door neighbor told them that someone rang his doorbell that morning, but by the time he answered, whoever it was gone. The police were able to rule out Robert and the other men that Nikki would see when Robert was out of town, which left the police with the girls as their only potential suspects. So the girls were separated for questioning. When they were each in their own interrogation room, the detective asked them to take off their gloves and jackets since they noticed that neither girl had removed them since being there. When they did, one of the girls had a cut on her finger that looked like it was from a knife. They also had scratches and other marks on their hands and arms. When asked how they got them, they said they had gotten into a fight with each other. Tas was getting kind of nervous that they didn't believe her, and when she saw a camera in the corner of the room, she started talking to herself, saying, "Stupid scratch. They are going to blame this whole thing on me because of a stupid scratch." She also would say things like, "I hope they catch who did this." The girls were sent to stay with separate family members while police investigated. When Nikki's autopsy came back, it was found that she had between 50 to 80 stab wounds. These stab wounds had nearly severed her spinal cord, which is why she wasn't able to move before she drowned. While searching the house again, they found bloody clothes in the washing machine that belonged to the girls. Nikki's hair was also found in a pair of their shoes that had been put back in a shoebox. At this point, family members also started suspecting the girls because they went back to living life as if nothing happened. They even brought dates to Nikki's funeral, and the four of them were just messing around and laughing like they were having a great time. Meanwhile, police were still gathering evidence against the girls and were able to get an impression of Nikki's teeth that matched the bite marks on one of the girls. They then found a journal that seems to be shared by the girls, and in it they wrote how much they hated their mother and that they were going to get rid of her soon. 4 months after her death, police had enough evidence against Jas and Tas, and they were arrested for Nikki's murder and aggravated assault on May 21st of 2010. While in the back of the police car, the girls are recorded talking. Jas said that they are talking about the bite marks, and Tas replied that the day that they find a murder weapon with her fingerprints, please find a murder weapon with my fingerprints. Then it'll be different. But what the girls didn't realize is that they had enough evidence against them that they didn't even need a murder weapon to prove that they had killed their mom. They pled not guilty. The trial didn't begin until 4 years later. They were given separate trials and were facing life in prison. Tas decided to take a deal, so she would plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter, falsification of government matters, and possession of a knife during the commission of a crime for a lesser sentence. She would get 30 years if she told the whole truth. Jas originally wanted to go to trial, but after being told that taking the deal was her only chance of ever getting out of prison one day, she also accepted it. They both confessed, and the court finalized the deal. They both got 30 years with the possibility for parole. Their first parole hearing was in 2017 and they were denied. Their next hearing will be in 2025. They are currently being held in separate prisons. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please like and follow the podcast and share with your true crime friends. I hope you have a great day and you stay safe, and I'll be talking to you next week.